Ich habe als Konfirmand einen Film gesehen über die Fischer vor Island.
When I was young, I saw a film about fishermen in Iceland struggling with heavy storms. For me, that was overwhelming. As I was born in the sign of fish, I decided to become a sailor. So I was 15 when I came to the Pericles from the Pamir. I said, "This is my boat." Back to Hamburg, I asked Captain Paining to go on board of the Pamir. He replied, "No, you're going to the Passat." That saved my life. Such a boat, driven solely by the power of wind over the oceans where the wind systems are blowing. That energy was used, and that was unique, fantastic.
Und das war einmalig. Die Leistung der Padua war, dass sie über Jahre etwa im Schnitt 7 Knoten segeln konnte. Damit konnte der Reeder Leis rechnen.
The sailboat Padua had an average speed of 7 knots over the year. That was the constant factor for its shipowner Leis. Experienced captains were able to sail 7 knots in every return journey. The Preußen and Potosi sometimes sailed in heavy winds at about 13 to 14 knots. The real benefit was sailing without any engine, powered just by the wind, and the space in the boats where the motor usually goes could be used as cargo space. So more cargo could be carried. Not even the steamboats from Australia around Cape Good Hope were faster.
Da brauchten die Dampfschiffe Kap der Guten Hoffnung nach Australien, die brauchten genauso lange. Wenn Sie diese Trommeln hier sehen, sind das nicht normale Trommeln, sondern die sind konisch zugeschnitten.
You see these drums shaped in conical form, with 2 people over there, and here I can turn the yards around the mast.
Bei einer Wende den Mast drehen.
When these yards go with the wind, they are brought to this position.
In diese Stellung gebracht. Dadurch brauchten die
So it was not necessary anymore for the sailors to stay outside the main deck. That means when the boat was rolling and heavy waves splashed over the boat, they were in the middle of the boat, protected from the big waves. With these innovative brash winches, the shipowner saved about 8 sailors. That's a lot. A boat like Padua was driven by 28 sailors, including the captain. So now they're safe on top here. This invention by the English Captain Javis was developed in a high-tech way and was taken over by the P-liners of Leis.
Die Leissegler übernommen haben. Wir stehen hier am Kreuzmast an der Fallwinde.
Here we are at the mizzenmast with the winches from the upper middle topsail. It is at least 26 meters long and weighs about 2 tons. It is fixed to this rope. That means the yard is on the bottom. The sail is striked. At this big flywheel, you can attach a winder, and then the sail can be set by 8 men.
Händel aufsetzen und dann kann man mit 8 Mann die Ra beim Segelsetzen vorheißen.
4. Раз, два, три, 4. Раз, два, три, 4. Раз, два, три, 4. Раз.
Die Padua war, als sie gebaut wurde und fertig war,
When the Padua was built, it was a masterpiece in the art of ship construction. A unique masterpiece after 3,000 years of experience. To build such a boat is like a work of art.
Kunstwerk. Leider ist das dann durch
Unfortunately, this was replaced by modern technology, the steamboat, the motor engine, and the construction of the Suez and Panama canals.
und des Panamakanals. Technik schreitete so schnell fort.
The technology advanced rapidly. The motorboats became safer and bigger, faster and faster. Sailboats had no chance anymore. But the disadvantage of the motorboats, as we know today, is their pollution of the environment. A huge cargo boat driven by heavy fuel gives off a lot of filthy waste. That's killing our planet. Sailboats don't do that.
Und das haben die Segelschiffe nicht getan. Das ging ja über Tausende von Jahren nur mit Windenergie.
It's worked for thousands of years, simply by wind energy. Now we can return to that wind power after it was discarded as antiquated.
Da steht der Kapitän Schwarz vorne, von dem wissen sie, der hat Segelschiffe gefahren.
There's Captain Schwarz. They know he sailed tall ships. They know he comes from the Gorsch Fock. So for them, it is clear he is kind of nostalgic. That means a crazy man. And when he talks about modern sailing boats, soon it becomes clear they need to get away from that crazy man. But they don't listen. That's not good. They should listen and ask questions.
Zuhören und Fragen stellen. Die Motivation zur Entwicklung von modernen Segelschiffen.
My motivation for building the modern sailing freighters is knowing they are urgently needed in order to avoid environmental pollution. This is a serious source of energy. It's not a pipe dream. If we want to survive on this planet, it's important to return to the power of wind where it exists. For example, in the North Atlantic, the big wind triangle. I'm sailing from Europe with the trade winds to South America along the Caribbean islands to the east coast of the USA, and then back by the west winds. There is a big capacity. The boats don't need to be 360 meters long, like the ones from Hapag-Lloyd. Who's ordering these big boats? It's absolutely not necessary.
Je nachdem, wo der Anschluss vom Schiff ist, da legen wir dann ziemlich genau unter dem Anschluss müssen wir anlegen.
Depending on where the connection to the boat is, we fix it exactly there under the connection, and then the operators let down a hook to fix the oil pipe holding it up.
Und dann wird er bis ganz nach oben hochgezogen und dann wird noch ein kleiner Flansch dazwischen gebaut. Und wenn die dann das Okay geben, dass wir anfangen können.
We wait for the okay to pump, then we start. And the whole procedure repeats itself. Consumption depends on the speed. With one load, they can do 2 round trips from Europe to Asia. Altogether, there is 12,000 tons of heavy fuel.
11.000 bis 12.000 Tonnen an Schweröl, die verbraucht werden. Die Schiffe was im Moment in Hamburg zu erkennen ist, dass die Schiffe weniger werden.
In Hamburg right now, you can realize there are fewer boats, but definitely bigger ones. In earlier times, the size behind us was split up into smaller boats. But now, this is the common size. For Hamburg, this size is the limit. There is a series which is bigger, almost 400 meters, and that's almost too big. That's why the Elbe River is planned to be dredged deeper, because the boats on the Elbe River can be loaded up only to 60% capacity. More than that is too much, and that's why the river must be dredged deeper. I think more and more bigger boats will appear to lower the prices for the ship owners.
Ja, ich denke, es werden immer mehr größere Schiffe kommen.
I think more and more bigger boats will appear to lower the prices for the ship owners. One cargo boat uses 40 to 50 tons of heavy fuel every day. Heavy fuel is a very poisonous combustion. Actually, it's toxic waste which has to be removed in a disposal container or special eliminator. We don't need that anymore. In certain months, with strong winds, we are even faster and don't need any fuel. Then we sail without emissions.
Sailing ships has been something we've done for 6,000 years, so why wouldn't we do it now? And the challenge is that we have to integrate it into the existing shipping system. Directions removing it.
Yes, the wind is always blowing. That's straight down the tunnel, and we just...
Whether we want to accept it or not, we have to recognise that going forward, using renewable energy makes good sense, because it is, as it says on the tin, renewable. And so it will never run out. And the wind will always blow. And I think it's in the Pacific Islands where they say it's a gift from God. And I think we need to start thinking about making sure that the lifeblood of international and global trade continues to flow for all sorts of things, for commodities, for energy, but also for your cup of tea in the morning and your cup of coffee. We don't realise how much of what we consume comes from ships, and so 90% of something, of almost everything that we consume, 90% of everything we consume comes by sea. So if that lifeblood of shipping seizes up, then we are in big trouble for being able to consume the things that we're used to consuming. So I think we need shipping to take its part in reducing CO2 emissions and improving its efficiency.
Der Großcontainer wird natürlich bleiben, weil es
The big container ships will remain because mankind's greed won't stop. The dark side of the human animal.
das Schlechte der Menschen ist ja drin. Also
The textiles and t-shirts transported from Hong Kong, we don't really need them. We don't need anything from Hong Kong. We don't need anything from Vietnam, Indonesia, or Bangladesh.
aber deswegen brauchen wir
For that, it's not necessarily to dredge the Elbe River. We have the big harbor at the mouth of the Elbe outside, which is not used to its full capacity. There's space enough for 300-meter-long boats. That's enough.
Das reicht völlig aus.
We should stop trying to be more and more like a megalomaniac.
Größenwahnsinnig werden wollen.
Schiffe sind ein großer Emittent von Schadstoffen.
Boats play a big part in polluting the air, especially through the emission of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide. Taking the boat's emissions just in the North and the Baltic Seas, compared to all other sources in Germany, the result is 80% of the nitrous gases emitted is emitted by boats in the North and Baltic Seas, and 60% of that is sulfur dioxide. So an enormous part of these emissions are generated by boats.
Schiffe an bestimmten Schadstoffen einnehmen.
We analyze the filter which are sampled in the tower of Neuwerk Island. The air in the North Sea is very clean, there are no other sources of pollution, so we can be sure these toxic substances are emitted by boats.
Aber natürlich verursacht auch die
The
Schifffahrt.
emission of fine dust and nitrogen dioxide created by shipping is one of the causes of certain respiratory diseases. That means people are falling ill or even die of this pollution.
Also eine Möglichkeit sicherlich aus meiner Sicht ist natürlich auch, dass wir uns ein Stück weit davon verabschieden müssen, halt Konsum in der Form.
I see the possibility to reduce our consuming habits. All what we use, our textiles and so on, are produced far away from Europe. That means more transportation is needed. For certain things, we should think about producing them where they are needed and where they are consumed.
Bei bestimmten Dingen auch wieder ein Stück weit zurück muss zu einer Produktion dort, wo letztendlich dann halt auch die Dinge gebraucht werden, konsumiert werden.
Wenn wir wirklich den
If we really want to reduce the heavy fuel needed by the shipping industry, then we have to think about new propulsion technologies. Then we can think about sailing which does not generate any carbon dioxide. I see a potential there which is worth developing. We should now look at what kind of technologies exist. Where will they be in 10 years, when we use more and more the power of the wind to drive boats?
Die Räder sind noch nicht so weit.
The ship owners are not ready yet to change. They're after profit. That's what they have to do. If they don't make profit, they'll be voted out by their shareholders.
Dann werden sie abgewählt. Wir können alles in unserem eigenen Land produzieren.
We can produce everything in our own countries. That might be more expensive, but it's not necessary to pollute the planet. We should not let giant cargo boats pollute the atmosphere. That's just the greed of a few ship owners and shareholders.
Wenn du billige Produkte kaufst, die mit einem
By buying cheap products transported by huge, stinking cargo ships, you don't see the damage to the environment. That's not written on the price tag. But that damage should be part of the price. This higher price is necessary to repair the damage caused by the emissions during transport. But that doesn't yet work right now. And with a sailboat, this damage does not even occur.
Dass die Schäden gar nicht erst entstehen. Dass Produkte, die biologisch hergestellt sind, Fairtrade.
Organic products which are traded in a fair way should be transported with a fair transport.
Hergeschafft werden sollen. Ja? Und das geht eben nur mit einem Segelschiff. Die Art der Produkte, die wir verschiffen, das sind dann meistens und in Zukunft hoffentlich alle nur wirklich.
What we want to ship in the future are organic products. Products that don't cause any damage during growing or production, and no damage to humans during the work and during transportation. It will be a lot of fun for all the people involved in the process not to cause these problems. Products transported by cargo from India or South America are wasting 30,000 liters of heavy oil every day. So how can you eat and live healthily when you are wasting the air you are breathing? There is no advantage to transporting by cargo.
Sind 10 Leute, die von dem Schiff leben.
10 people make their living from our boat. All year round, it operates with young people and trainees. This concept is approved. Now we want to achieve that on a much larger scale in order to be able to compete with the freighting business.
Dem normalen Frachtverkehr entgegenzugehen, konkurrieren zu können. Das Das ist etwas, was 100% stimmt.
Our concept is 100% correct. We ship biological products by the Tres Hombres to Europe, so you can enjoy them like an apple from your own garden.
Welcome thuis. I was waiting the whole day in the office till we could pull out to sea to tow them in, and yeah, it's a good feeling.
The difference is the missing link. The missing link is fair transported goods. Nobody can do it at this moment, and we can do it as the only ship in the world, and that makes it unique. Because you can produce organic, but if you transport it with pollution like with conventional shipping, then how organic is that product at last?
Luxuriöse Güter.
We transport mainly luxury goods that are not vital to sustain life. But if you want to transport them, why not environmentally friendly? By our boats.
Tot een flesje, hè?
Andreas? Okay.
Sie wird immer das schönste Schiff sein, das wir überhaupt bauen.
The Tres Hombres is the most beautiful boat we have ever built. That can't be exceeded, that's for sure. But we confront the freighting business with it and try to influence people. We take these modern ideas, like this modern eco-liner. In the present economy, it is easier to convince companies and stakeholders with a modern boat.
Leute, die in der jetzigen Ökonomie denken, leichter zu überzeugen. Was wir eigentlich wollen.
What we really want to do is make all cargo boats sailboats. The Tres Hombres is just the beginning of this revolution.
Ecoliner would be especially suitable to transport bulk cargoes like grain, like steel, like also liquid cargoes like oil or something like that. Oil can be used for many things better than just putting it in an engine of a ship. It can also be used for project cargoes, like parts of windmills or big machinery, things like that.
It's not completely new because we use a lot of our experience that we have gained with the sailing yacht research, which gives us a benefit because we have done a lot of that. But it's new in its application, yeah. And there are special issues involved which we are not testing here now. But for instance, this is not sailing. This is what we call motor sailing. So the propeller is also being driven by the engine, which means that you get all kind of additional research issues like what is the influence of a leeway angle on the efficiency of a propeller, or what is the influence of the loading of the propeller, because it's relatively lightly loaded, on the efficiency of the propeller. That's yeah.
It is not only a fact of economics in the sense of fuel prices, but it is also economics in the sense of taxes on environmental issues, emission issues and others. If they are going to be taxed, then the whole game changes. If we cannot find a ship that sits inside an economic model fulfilling the environmental requests but not earning any money, we don't have a project. So we have to develop the design within the economic model so we can, the ship owner, the operator can make money with it.
During the test with leeway angle, it's very important to keep the rolling angle at a certain sinkage.
Yes, I think the Ecoliner could be the beginning of a big evolution.
New technologies allows us to make better use of the wind than we could use 100 years ago. And the oil prices go up and up, as we know. So it becomes more effective to use free energy, like in the wind. Dyno-rig, as it was thought out in the 60s and 70s, was never built. So there was never a real proof that it would actually work.
Wünschen, Hilfsmittel, das wurde bei uns alles früher mit der Hand gemacht. Die Cape Horn hat ein modernes Rig.
The Cape Horn has a modern rig. I developed it in the 1980s with the company Bremer Wolken. We call it Pinta Rig, and it allows us to sail close to the wind. Actually, you can sail 20 degrees to the wind. That means enormous speed as the yard arms are curved like the wings of a plane. That allows optimal aerodynamic forces. Of course, we have to follow the weather conditions. It's not enough just to install a wing panel, but we have to adapt that wing panel to different levels where you can move it. So we can adapt exactly to the wind conditions. In the case of a highest supply of energy, that means storm, you can't say stop. No, we just strike some of the sails and go on. That's why a sailboat is much more safer than any motorboat.
And when the client for the Maltese Falcon came to us and said, I want to put this rig on my yacht, we felt it was very challenging to really develop the concept further to make it into a real working rig. And we were, of course, very happy that it actually worked in the end.
Ganz konkret können wir mit der Cape Horn, wie mit jedem modernen Segelschiff, große Geschwindigkeiten fahren, große Höhe am Wind fahren.
With Cape Horn, we are able to sail at high speeds, like any other sailing boat. We can sail very close to the wind. We have tested that with the Pinta, at that time at the Bremer Vulcan Company. She made 18 to 20 knots. That success was incredible. We have documented this data, and today, thanks to the Maltese Falcon, she's living proof this high speed can be achieved just with sails.
Are you there? Hi, my name's Chris Gardner. I was the owner's project manager for Tom Perkins on the build of the Maltese Falcon from 2001 to 2006, and then I was then the captain for the Maltese Falcon from 2006 to 2010. So the Maltese Falcon is a big piece of my life, and very proud to have been a part of such a great project with so many great people. Everything was done from the main sailing console on the bridge. And then we also had a remote control unit that we would take out on the deck. And then we would say tweak it in English to do maybe a fine adjustment. And then once you had the fine adjustment, you pressed a button and then the system would remember that. So we are setting, approximately 2,600 square meters of sail area in 7 minutes, and then striking all those sails in 7 minutes. And we would do that 5 or 6 times a day, if we were just island hopping or even anchorage hopping. You just set the sails.
Imagine that. That is what people do on a yacht, with 2 sails.
I tell you, on an 88-meter sailboat like this, with that much sail area, we were setting the sails and sailing probably more than most yachts of 20 meters to 30 meters.
How efficient is it?
It's safe. You can strike the sails quickly. You can set the sails quickly. There is no running rigging or standing rigging that can fail or that wasn't secured correctly by a crew member. You don't have to have people aloft working unless there's an absolute emergency, which we had very few of, and it just performs. It's so easy.
I remember the last Atlantic crossing with Tres Hombres, when we really had the nice winds from the good quarter, and we could also do a mileage of 250 miles a day, which was pretty amazing.
It's economical. It's environmentally friendly.
But
for a lot less. It makes a lot of sense
and fun, I guess.
I would love to work on another Maltese Falcon and get involved with that, because I'm such a big believer in that sort of a rig configuration, and I know it works, and I've sailed thousands and thousands of miles on a boat that it does work. I've sailed off docks, I've sailed on anchors, I've sailed across the Atlantic, We've sailed around islands. It works.
Wir wollen die Fair-Transport-Revolution starten, natürlich. Und zusammen mit Dijkstra, das ist
We want to start the revolution of fair transport. Together with Dijkstra, they are the best and the only ones planning and designing it. We want to bring cargo shipping back to the right place in the world. Give it back a good reputation, instead of one as a destroyer of the environment. It's absolutely necessary to be able to transport the huge volumes around the globe without polluting the environment.
If there's a single person on the bridge, he can, by a touch of a button, set the sails and move the rig like this, all the way around to sail on another course. Well, the big difference is these are freestanding masts. Freestanding meaning they have a single bearing and a motor in the ship, and there are no stays attached. So if you turn the mast, the whole deck will be free, and you can move your freight in between the mast if that's what you need. Yeah.
It is the freighter of the future for the route that we are designing her for, and for the size of the vessel that we were asked to design. So for 8,000 ton cargo vessel, multi-purpose, on the transatlantic route, we feel the Ecoliner with the dyno rig can easily be automated, as we did on Maltese Falcon. On a Maltese Falcon, it is a one-man operation from an instrument panel. By pushing one button, he can set all the sails, where on the P-liner you needed probably a crew of 30 persons to be able to set the sails.
So das Modell ist im Schlepptank getestet.
The model is tested in the towing tank. Now the tests continue in the wind channel. And then you can calculate the forces and the fuel consumption exactly. The fuel consumption savings is considerable. The speediness of the boat as well. As soon as these results are on the table, then the first investor can give a signal and start with the construction.
We could sail that boat in light winds. We could sail that boat in heavy winds. We did it as much as we possibly could. And the amount of fuel we did not use was incredible.
Vanwege de dikte aan de zijkant. Ja, we willen niet het is opleiden. Het is ook geen Kimkiel. Je zou het kunnen zien als een Kimkiel, maar het heeft niet het effect.
Die Padua kann man nicht mit dem Dyno-Rig.
You can't transform the Padua by the dyno rig. That's not possible. But you can build a new Padua. The dyno rig is ready. When fuel becomes more expensive, that's when they'll take notice. Then the dyno rig will show up as a sail freighter with an auxiliary motor.
Am besten geeignet ist es natürlich für Massengut.
The best use of the sail freighter is for bulk and project cargo in harbors with an infrastructure suitable for the Ecoliner.
The technology that we have today allows us to make better use of the wind, and we do that in a routing. So when we know in which areas the wind is blowing, then we can sail to those areas and use that wind.
Well, it's a computer program and it finds routes across the ocean using the weather forecast and data about the ship. And what it gives you is the fuel consumption of the Ecoliner for a certain route. So if you want to go from port A to port B, you can calculate how much fuel you have to use. What's really new about the routing program is that it is a routing program specifically for multi-sailors. So this means that a ship can both use sails and an engine
for optimal propulsion and the lowest fuel consumption. And the routing program varies the engine setting of the ship. So some bits of the journey can be just under sail, and some bits can be motor sailing, and some bits can be just motoring.
Süd, 100 Ost. Also hier kann man sehr gut sehen, wie der
Here you can see the wind increasing. In the notes you find in short periods the wind force 6, 7, 10, 11. That is really exceptional. And then again, the wind decreases again down to 7. And the next notes are again wind force 10, 11.
Ein ganz besonderes Buch von der Padua. Es ist nämlich da dokumentiert, dass in einer schweren Böe mehrere Matrosen über Bord gegangen sind.
It's a very special book from the Padua. It documents that during a heavy storm, several sailors fell overboard. The captain noted that an accident happened. The sailors fell from the rigs by a heavy squall. You can see here the increasing wind led to an enormous problem, but somebody had to climb up there.
Da musste jemand in die Takelage und da kann sowas passieren.
Ja, das Schiff war ja in Gefahr.
Ja.
Da muss reagiert werden, keine Frage.
Documenting weather data from the past is very important for planning purposes, because planning is not possible without knowing how it is and how it was. Large circulations of wind are obvious, that's clear. But by analyzing past weather data, we find out how it really was. That's vital for convincing the freighter operators to use the power of the wind.
Denn der Wind weht von Anbeginn und den Wind haben wir. Das einzige.
The wind is blowing from the beginning. It's the biggest gift of God. The wind is always there.
Das ist ein ständig laufender Prozess der Wetterbeobachtung, der Datenweiterleitung und der Datenverarbeitung.
It's a continuous process of weather observation, data transfer, and the preparation of the weather data. There are tens of thousands of weather stations around the world. All this data is collected by these weather stations, and then it all goes into the data flow of the service stations. In the past, we had weather observations only here and there, without any communication. The global link was missing.
Durch die Segelantriebe, die jetzt zunehmend auf Frachtschiffen installiert werden, es gibt ja auch Frachtschiffe, die
More and more sailing systems on cargo freighters are now installed. There are even sail freighters without any motor. So it's important for us which route we support, so we can give special advice. In principle, the boats on the trade wind areas make a lot of profit by the wind.
Ich denke, wir werden gezwungen werden, diese Windenergie, die ja vorhanden ist, kostenlos, ständig da ist, diese
We are compelled to use the wind power, because the wind systems are always there, and wind doesn't cost anything. Fuel becomes scarcer and scarcer. The wind costs nothing. We can't afford not to make use of the wind, especially for the cargo shipping.
Sail freighters have a chance when the fuel prices rise. Therefore, it's interesting when shipbuilders develop ideas how to use the modern sailing for transportation. It's the most ecological energy, wind. For sailing, you need a good qualification. In my opinion, it is the future for cargo shipping.
So shipping is the lifeblood of global economy. And if we don't address the challenges that increases in populations and corresponding increase in global trade is going to bring our way, then we're all going to be in trouble because the lifeblood will seize up, become ill. So I think the shipping sector is being very responsible at the moment and looking at alternative solutions to propulsion, and wind is amongst that. This is a very efficient means of transport, but we need to make it even more efficient. We need to make it even cleaner so that we can continue to trade internationally and globally in a fossil-constrained future. It's there's a commercial advantage to being the first to achieve something, because you get the first mover advantage into any market. And so we would very much like to achieve that position. However, the more players there are in the market, the more credibility the projects all have. If you're the only person doing something, people tend to find that much more difficult to believe. If there are many people doing things in a competitive environment, then I think that gives more credibility to all of the projects. So yes, we welcome other people being alongside us and developing the technology. We share experiences and we work together in the wind, I think it's called the Windship Alliance, and also, we would like to be the first to bring our ship into the commercial environment. And what we need to do is to understand how we can transition this fantastic technology to make it acceptable for the shipping companies, the cargo owners, the port owners. The time to do it is now. The environment in which we live, the environment in which we all live, is under threat, and we need to start making some rational but ambitious decisions about how we consume goods, how we shift goods, and how we engage with our world.
I'm very convinced by the efficiency of the sailing freighters. I'm convinced I can earn a pretty good living by transporting goods by sail. In the meantime, we proved it works. This is a boat from 1931. It's able to keep up with the lorry traffic because the only competition on the transport route from Hamburg to Sylt are the lorries. We make it work by delivering goods for the same price. We can carry 3 times the load of a lorry, so we can do it at the same time, sometimes even quicker, in a sustainable way.
dann wollen wir in der nächsten Stufe große Segelfrachtschiffe.
In the next step, we want to deliver big sailing freighters, modern sailing freighters for the worldwide shipping market. We want to build new boats to prove that sailing freighters are really efficient.
Ja, wenn wir dann die Kapitäne und Nautiker haben, die in der Lage sind, den Ecoliner sicher zu fahren, das heißt die Takelage und das Segeln handwerklich sicher.
We have the captains who are able to sail the Ecoliner safely. That means to handle the sails and the rig in a good way. But can they do it quick enough is the question.
Der Erfolg der Frachtsegelschifffahrt ist es unabdingbar, dass man von der Geschwindigkeit.
For the success of the freighters, it's absolutely necessary to keep up, at least with the speed of the motorboats, maybe even quicker.
Das kennen wir alle aus dem Yachtsport. Nur weil man ein Schiff segeln kann, heißt es noch lange nicht, dass man ein Schiff schnell segeln kann.
We all know from yachting, if you're able to sail a boat, that does not mean you can sail the boat really fast. The same boat sailed by different people reach its goal in completely different times, because one trims the sails more or less better, using different techniques. We want to optimize that. So it's necessary to assist captains and navigators by pilots.
An die Seite gestellt. Lotsen im besten Sinne, nämlich nicht Lotsen, die das, was die Kapitäne und Nautiker machen, besser können, sondern Lotsen, die die Kapitäne und Nautiker in dem, was sie machen sollen, sehr gut beraten, nämlich im Schnellsegeln. Man könnte Deutsch die ganz platt Schnellsegellotsen nennen. Wir nennen sie, weil die Seefahrt international sind, ein bisschen blumiger, die Deep Sea Sailing Pilots.
Pilots who do the captain's job, but also give advice in the best possible way, in the sense of sailing fast. We call them deep sea sailing pilots. They are the high sea sailors with vast regatta racing experience, who have taken part in the Volvo Ocean Race, for example. These sailors have proven they can go really fast.
Mit den Meeresströmungen und die taktischen Entscheidungen basierend auf strategischen Entwicklungen der Wetterwarten entsprechend an Bord gut umsetzen können, dass sie motiviert bleiben, die Motivation weiter fort.
They are able to manage the play with the different winds and the different drifts in the oceans.
Segelrennsport machen, das wird hier.
Their nautical decisions are based on weather forecasts, and they are able to transfer this knowledge on board.
Mit seinen Nautikern einen Berater an der Seite.
Their knowledge from the ocean races is applied in a very good way. So the captain is assisted by a deep-sea pilot that can also be a woman. He gives advice, develops strategies and tactics to sail a big boat in the fastest possible way.
Schnell die Strecke, die man vorhat, absegeln kann. Wir sind nicht billiger, wir sind nicht schneller.
We're not cheaper, we're not faster, but we can compete with the lorries. We are as fast as the lorries for the same price. We are competitive.
Scheuen da auch nicht den Vergleich. Fahren wir so ein bisschen nach Backbord und dann wieder.
Ja, ich sehe, genau.
Wir lieben dieses Thema. Wir lieben es nicht auf eine naive, träumerische Art, sondern wir brennen dafür.
We love that topic, not in a dreaming, naive way. We are burning from it, early morning till the end of the day. It determines our life in all sectors.
Ja, das war so. Torben und ich saßen zusammen bei mir zu Hause. Wir haben uns wir haben besprochen, was wir tun können. Und der Ecoliner war bei mir auf dem Bildschirm und mein Sohn kam rein.
Torben and I were sitting home talking about what else we can do. The Ecoliner was on the screen. My son showed up and asked, "Daddy, what is that?" We explained, Torben is a captain. He used to sail the Gorsch Fock. He was a soldier in Somalia. And now we are building the Ecoliner to reduce the pollution in the sea. Then my 11-year-old son told me, "Daddy, that's great. I understand what you are doing." From that moment on, it was clear this is the right way.
Die Windjammer Shipping Reederei beweist heute jeden Tag mit der Undine und Torben Haas,
efficient sailing freighters are possible. The shipowner's company Windjammer, with Torben Haas and the Undine, is proving that every day. And we know the transatlantic routes driven by the Ecoliner are highly efficient. That is the future.
bedient, hocheffizient sind und die Zukunft. Wir wissen, dass es A funktioniert und dass wir die Verantwortung unseren Kindern gegenüber empfinden.
We know it works, and we feel very strongly about it. The responsibility towards our children and the next generation. The new motivation every day is to imagine our children, years ahead, telling us, "Daddy, you did the right thing." That's what we want. Instead of wasting and polluting the planet, just living for myself. We don't want this. That is our motivation and gives us power every day.
Uns auch versetzt uns in die Lage, das zu tun, was wir letztendlich jetzt hier machen.
Die Reeder denken nur an ihr eigenes Leben. Ich lebe noch 20 Jahre.
The shipowners only think about themselves, but the grandchildren and great-grandchildren will make their grandparents responsible for what they did wrong. We have to suffer from the pollution and the rising sea levels. Why didn't you avoid that? It was man-made by our ancestors. We can't blame Martin Luther 200 or 500 years ago. We are to blame for that. Since 150 years, the technique is highly developed on the globe, and we destroy it. Our grandchildren will blame us for that and what we did wrong.
Wir haben das verkehrt gemacht.
I think there's a human condition, which is that we don't really like change, and we're very familiar with the patterns that we've had. So changing things is an alarming development for any human being, and we're looking at doing something which seems to be quite radical, although if we look over the history of humankind, it isn't radical at all. We've been sailing ships for thousands of years. So I think there's an emotional aspect to get over, and in order to get over that, we have to produce lots of data for bankers, for customers, for port operators, for ship owners, for cargo owners, to demonstrate as best we can before we build the real ship that this is a viable project.
Warum wird es nicht gemacht und wie könnte die Zukunft aussehen?
Why hasn't it been achieved? What could the future look like? The ship owners can buy emission certificates by planting some trees in tropical regions. Then they continue to burn the dirty, heavy fuel. And that's criminal in regards to the next generations.
wind, he is blowing million years. He is blowing, 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 and the people must use in our purposes this gift of God. Gift of God.
I'm convinced sailing the Ecoliner affords a qualification on a traditional windjammer, like this.
Trotz der Globalisierung könnten sie auch deutsche Seeleute beschäftigen.
The ship owners could employ German sailors, but that's not the case. The nautical school in Hamburg is closed. This is a crime towards the youth of Hamburg.
That in our century, the 20th centuries, the 21st centuries, is very, very important for our young cadets to study on the sailing ship. On the sailing ship, on this deck, with these riggings, on these ropes, every young man very full at the sea, the wind, at the storm, and here becoming to live at sea. It's very, very important. Maybe today we have a modern ship, container ship, tanker ship, nuclear ship, icebreaker, and so on, so on. But the foundation of all our maritime life is a sail, is a deck, is a ropes.
Es gibt neben dem Moment, dass wir einen...
Besides building a 4,000 square meter sailing freighter, there is a historic moment. The people inheriting the knowledge of the past are still alive. Now we have the historic chance these days to unite all these facts and knowledge and know-how from all over the world. The know-how transferred from the past could be applied to the next 500,000 years. It's not the motorboats, but the sailing boats that will survive.
Motorschiffe werden überleben, sondern die Segelschiffe.
Es rechnet sich für die Welt und damit rechnen wir dann auch.
It's economical for the world, so it's economical for us.
Wir mögen uns alle. Wir mögen miteinander zusammenarbeiten. Wir wissen.
We like each other. We want to cooperate and know that the global leaders are involved with our project.
Das ist, ich habe von Pike auf gelernt, Windjammer zu segeln. Von Topsgast an, wo ich im Top zu Hause war und mein Arbeitsplatz im Mast war.
I was trained sailing windjammers from the bottom up. I started on top in the mast, continued to the boss of the crew. Later I sailed my own sailing boats and rigged up the foremast bark Sea Cloud.
Das sind die Leute, eine ganz kleine eingeschworene Gemeinschaft an Leuten, die per heute überhaupt...
There are only a few people who really know the art of sailing tall ships.
Ich habe also 17, 18 Jahre als Kapitän auf den...
I was sailing for over 18 years on big sailboats like Starflyer, Star Clipper, Royal Clipper, Sea Cloud 1 and Sea Cloud 2. These are my big boats. Before I rigged the Alexander von Humboldt. There I was the captain for 2 years. I like that.
Es ist was wir wollen, es ist normal, es ist nichts. Es ist ganz normal, so muss es sein.
That's what we want. That's pretty normal. Anything else is rubbish and criminal. What we do is the right thing.
Ich möchte gar nicht die Welt verbessern, sondern ich möchte anhand der derzeitigen Umstände in der internationalen Seetransportwirtschaft
I do not want to make the world better, but considering the present shipping economy, I want to make money by sailing freighters.
Segelschiffe ganz einfach besitzen gegenüber den traditionellen Motorschiffen.
The advantages of a sailboat compared to a motorboat, I want to make a profit on that.
Wir steigen heute in einen Mercedes ein und denken, wir sind die Größten. Das sind wir gar nicht. Wir sind am Anfang. Mit der Windenergie, den Wind zu nutzen. Wir sind erst
We get into a Mercedes limousine and think, we are on top. That's wrong. We are in the beginning. To use the power of the wind is just the beginning. Every generation is in the beginning. The Ecoliner is a very good idea.
And I think if you can get a ship in the water now that can fulfill those requirements, environmental requirements in the future, you as a ship owner, as a ship operator, you are ahead of the game.